Now the problem spot is right around this side here. It's the front tie down on the driver's side. As you can see, now it kind of droops down here a little bit. It's hard to see that, but I'm sure you can see the black here, kind of a sealant, I think, where the trim originally was, and now it's down a little bit, which means there's some kind of a problem inside there. It was a little looser, I could kind of shake it some, not so much now, but my concern is that this is the water heater right here. I really don't feel like taking the water heater out, so I'm going to see if I can find a way to have a look at that. I can't really see it from the inside, but I'd love to be able to do it without taking the water heater out. That just seems like a whole other can of worms. Well, I took another look inside, even though I pretty much knew the answer. There's no way I can access it within there. So at this point, really only have two choices. Either take this jack off of the camper here and maybe try and access it, but I really don't want to do that. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is pulling this water heater out. So now on the inside, there's just a couple of flex pipe connections, so I'll take those loose. And on the outside here, I got the gas connection right here, and that should come out loose too. I already checked the propane tank, it's turned off. Now the first thing I want to do is drain the water heater. Right here is kind of a plug, and when this comes out, the water will come out as well. It's just kind of gurgling out slowly, making a nice mess here where I want to stand. In fact, there's also a couple of electrical connections here. I'll go ahead and just wrap some electrical tape around this positive side. That way, if it touches some metal somewhere, it won't blow the fuse. But next, I'll go ahead and see if I can get that gas line loose. I have the water connections loose inside. So that's the little connector I need to get off of there. I did, well, it never was really tight, but I did get a little movement out of it already. Let's see if I can turn it by hand. No, it's just gonna be slow going here. Next, let's get that gas line loose. Well, that was easy enough. I'm sure this is overkill, and I gotta be real careful with it. There we go, get a little movement. Okay, so far it hasn't been too bad. I can't really see anything in here. It's a little disappointing because I was hoping to see something there. Can't get in there the way I would like to have. Well, I got a little access inside, and I did need to take the water heater out. That was the right thing to do. But it turns out I'm gonna take the jack off anyway. Ooh, that thing's heavy. Then I'll take the bracket off of there. I'm getting in a little more than I expected to, but I want to get this done right. Okay, I'll see if I can explain this in a way you understand. Now, I've already taken off the lowest board that ran along there. This is part of it right here. I cut it off all the way back to here because I wanted it to run back quite a ways, because when I glue it and screw it all back on again, I'll have more strength that way. I wanted to get about halfway between the two tie-down points. Now, even though I really didn't want to do this, this is the one that goes just above it, and it's a little bigger and it's a little stronger. But I got quite a bit of dry rot in here, and it's already failing from whatever bump I hit that pulled it loose in the first place. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut it back to about here or so that the bottom piece will overlap it a lot still. And once it's out, I'll be able to take a piece and slip it over top of it with some glue on it, and glue and screw it in there. Then when I put the new piece on from this end, it'll go underneath here. I can glue it and screw it to that. So that'll make it just like one solid piece again. Then once all that's in, I'll get another piece that runs from here all the way into the corner, and it'll go overlap this joint on both sides. I'll glue and screw that on there, and then it'll be stronger than it was to begin with. All right, so now I made a square line up in here, and I'll follow it as best as I can. I know you can't really see what I'm doing because the camper siding's in the way, but I don't want to pull off any more than I have to, because it just seems like the more I do, the bigger problems I'm causing. So I'm gonna do as less damage as possible in my effort to repair the damage that was already there. I made a couple more cuts in here through that same piece because I want to take it out real carefully to do minimum damage. Okay. All right. There we go. There's those two pieces. But now that one is out to here, and the lower one is out all the way back to here. So there'll be a nice overlap, and I'll have that piece across the top of it. I'll screw onto the existing piece and the new piece. That should make it really strong. Okay, I got it all out of there. Here's that piece. There we go. You see, that was just pretty ugly. There's the three pieces I need. I ripped them on the table saw to the right size and cut them to length on the miter saw. Now this piece is going to go back in for that kind of dry rotter piece I cut out here. And this piece here is going to hold this piece to the existing one. What I'll do is I'll reach in there and I'll screw it up from the bottom to that one. Then this piece will go in like this, and it'll butt right up against the piece that's already in there. Now I already did my pre-drilling, and I did run one test screw in to make sure I was going to be able to reach it and it would work out. Now I'm using polyurethane adhesive because I think that's the strongest kind. I'm going to get as much coverage I can. I like to have what we call 100% coverage, where when it mashes out, be all over that whole surface. All right, let's see how it goes. Okay, went in there easy enough. All right, really good start. Next thing I'll do is I'll hold this piece in place. That'll give me an idea where I need to pre-drill it. Well, I messed up. When I went to test fit this piece in here, the length was fine and the width was fine, but the height of it is too small. Now, I couldn't figure out what I did wrong because I went and checked it against my sample piece and it was just perfect. But then I realized this is the wrong sample piece. This one came from out of here, right at the top of this opening. This raggedy dry raw piece came from there. So I'm gonna have to go back into the shop. I'll recut this piece to the right size. I did do the pre-drill on this one. I don't know if you can see, I got 3 screws in there. Now I just got to get some glue on this, and I pre-fit it too, so I know it's right now. I'll get some glue on here. Well, that looks great. Oh yeah. That's great. Let's see how we look over here. All right, just need a little persuasion. It's in place. Okay, here's the piece. I test fit it one extra time just to be sure. I've got glue on this side. I've got screws all started on the bottom. I pre-drilled each of those. Now, it is a lot of screws and it's a lot of glue, but I want this to be strong. I want the 2 pieces to just be like one piece. I want them to be totally solid. Let's see how it goes. Nice. That looks great. That looks great. This is going to be stronger than new. That's what I'm after. I want it to be better than it was made in the first place. So the next thing I want to do is take this piece of sheet metal flashing. It's kind of an L shape. You see that? It's 3 inches square. 3 inches on each side. I'm going to put it underneath here. So you can see right there. Go up in there. And before I do that, you see I got a cross member here. Another cross member there. So what I got to do is push that up there, and I'll get a screw right through there into that cross member, the same with this one over here. Now the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and take this stick and use it to prop that cross member up a little bit so it's in place. I'll pre-drill all the way in it. I'm going to pre-drill the length of the screw I want, because I want to get a pretty long screw in there. And if I don't pre-drill that, it's going to split that piece, and that'll just give me more problems in the future. All right, I got it propped up there in the right place. I'm going to use my little countersink bit. I want the top of that screw to be flush with the wood there. All right, let's see if I can get that 3-inch screw in there. And we'll take the stick out and see how well it holds. See how we do. See that there? See how that's holding? It stayed nice and flush. Next, I want to get this piece of L metal, this piece of sheet metal flashing in there. And the reason for that, as you can see in here, is this is all kind of hanging loose, and this here is really trash now, but it was fastened into the piece that was originally here. There's no way to really do that reliably, so I'll get that piece of L metal sheet metal on there, go like that. It'll hold everything in place. At least that's the theory. I'm going to give it a shot. Now, I've already pre-drilled this pretty close together. I want a lot of screws in this thing. So I'll just kind of fit it up in there, run some screws in, and we'll see how it goes. Let's see how we're looking. That looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see right in here. Doesn't come quite all the way there. I think I'll be okay. I think we're looking good here. That went really nicely. Now another benefit to having this piece of sheet metal in here like that is when this is all together and this little piece of trim is up on there, it was supposed to be sealed and waterproof, but water is getting in there, and that I think is what caused a major part of my problems there. Now if water gets in, it won't touch the wood at all. It's just going to be on this sheet metal here, and that will eliminate a recurrence of the original problem. So now I'll get the rest of the screws in, and I guess then this all goes back together. Okay, so all of that was to get me to where I am now, and that's to put in the actual tie down itself. It's this, it's a 3/8 inch eye bolt. The way it goes in there is through this little bracket here. So this little bracket here slips on in there, and then I'll drill a hole right through there. But then this is just like this is where the nut is. It's sort of welded right on the bracket, and that kind of holds it all together. But before I put that on, I'm going to put in this piece of angle iron, because this angle iron is one of the things that are going to give me a lot more strength than it had before. You see, the angle iron goes on right there, and what this does is instead of having the whole load concentrated right here on this one pretty lightweight piece of wood, it spreads the load all the way across here. That's going to make it a lot stronger, and that's what I'm going to do. So the next thing I got to do, I'll take my pencil here, mark exactly where that hole should go. I know it kind of goes there, but I don't want to make the hole. I don't want to make the hole any bigger than I have to. They had a really big hole there. I think it makes it easier for them to line it up. I don't want to put as big a hole in this. All right, you see this here is the top of that. This little thing here is the top of that flashlight I put on there. Raised up a little high, so I cut it on each side of where the bracket goes and just bent that down. Makes the whole thing really snug. The whole thing. Now I need to make a hole in the whole thing. Okay, I think this will work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get that piece of metal out of there, because the next thing you know, I'm going to dull my drill bit. I can sharpen it again, but I'd rather not have to. Let me just get this drilled in here first. Dead battery. I'll go get another battery and come back and keep going. Now we're back. Oh man, one thing after another. Okay, now I reach a sheet metal, and I don't mind letting the point go through there. I don't know if I should let these other, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go right through there. I can sharpen it again. That worked better than it should have. All right. The next thing I'll do is I got to put the bracket in there. I'll get the siding down. I'll put this piece of trim on the bottom, and then finally the tie down goes back in. But before I do anything else, I'm going to put the bracket on there and make sure the bolt fits properly. Put this little guy on here. I mean, that's all the reinforcement they had. Right now I'm spreading it all the way across there. That's got to be way better. Yet another moment of truth. Let's see if this will go in there and thread in there properly. Well, it's not going exactly as I hope. Looks like the hole didn't line up perfectly. I got to straighten it out a little bit. Okay, so I reamed that hole out some. I just kind of turned my drill bit sideways and did what you're probably not supposed to do with a drill bit, but it worked. Let's see how it looks now. All right, that's threaded right in there. I threaded in there nicely, but I want to tighten it up. I want to make sure this is right before I do something I have to take apart again later. Yeah, that is fine. That is just beautiful. Okay, that's working out fine. I guess the next thing I got to do is put all this back together again. So this is the more exciting part now. All of this is going back together. Now the first thing I'll do is reattach my little water supply thing here. And the way you do it is you put some of this, it comes on a roll. It's some kind of a sealing tape. Now the first thing I did was I scraped all the old stuff off the back of this. It was pretty tedious, but that's really important to do. I already put the top one on. I guess I'll just kind of stick these on. Hopefully they'll stick to the back side of this long enough to get it screwed into place. Now I am using all new screws here. All right, that looks like it mushed in there pretty well. I'm gonna go ahead and take this excess off of this that's stuck out the sides. All right, that looks really good. Now, next thing I got to do is get the sealant tape inside this piece of trim here. I scraped out all the old sealant. It's so important to have that a clean surface. So I've got it in up to about here. What I did was I just kind of laid it in place as best as I could, and then I just sort of pressed it in place. I think one of the things I need to do is make sure it comes up to this top edge here, because if I leave any little gap there, water will get in there from the top, and eventually it'll make its way in. All right, there we go. That looks pretty good. I think all I can really do here is just start pushing this in and running some screws in. That's going to be a little difficult because the sheet metal's there now. I'm sure I'm going to make my life a lot easier if I just pre-drill that a little bit. See if I can use this to prop that up into place so I can get underneath where I can see what's going on. Oh yeah, that's great. That's the way to do it. All right, let's see how it goes. This is all new to me. You're learning right along with me. Using that stick also mashes it up in there really well. Well, that looks good. This piece is on. Now this is the piece that goes right at the bottom edge of the water heater opening. The old one was in okay shape, but I went ahead and cut a new one because this one's in perfect shape. Now I can't really get in there to put any screws from any of the sides, so I'm going to go ahead and use my pocket hole jig. But just in case you're not familiar with how this works, it drills these little angled holes in there. And the screw goes in the hole like that. And you just put my driver on it, and the screw will go out this end, and it'll fasten it into the vertical piece. All right, so the first thing I did was I went ahead and got the screws started in all the holes. Okay. That is in, and that's nice and solid. So unfortunately, there's a little crack in the, I'll call it the siding, this cladding of the camper. It's my fault. When I was pulling this apart, I had no idea how easily this stuff would split, but it split very easily. Now, I do have a solution. Of course, inside here, you saw that I have that piece of sheet metal in there. So I made this little piece here, this little piece here. I'll slide it and make sure it goes on the outside of the sheet metal I have in here. So any water that should get in there cannot get to the camper at all. I go down here, just go out there, everything will be fine. I guess now I'm ready to put the water heater back in. Before I do that, I'm going to clean up all this gunk, get all the old sealant off of there. Now these two pipes here are the original water connections for the water heater. I'm going to replace them. It's going to be a lot easier just to use these connectors here to do it. Now these are just like the connectors that you see underneath your kitchen sink. And I think I'm going to put them on this end here, put them on the water heater before I put it in. Now before we get much further, I got to put the tie down in there. Okay, good, that's going fine. There we go. That was a point of all of this work. I got all the sealant scraped off the backside of that. I scraped the sealant off of here. I put new stuff on there. You can see it, or maybe you can see it there. Here's the gas pipe, so I was able to pull it out here just a little bit. But here we go. The gas goes right in here. That is so nice. I still got to hook up the gas, electrical in here, and the water on the inside, but that's enough for today. I'm going in. All right, so the next thing I got to do is hook up the gas connection again. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, that should do it. Now we just got to stick these little wires back on here. All right, everything looks good here. I'll go inside and see if I can get those water supply connectors on. This is all underneath the kitchen sink cabinet, so it's kind of tough to reach. I think I got it there. Okay. So I think the next thing I got to do is turn on the water. I hope it's okay. Can you hear that? That's the burner going. Appears to be working. We'll give it a little time to heat up. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and get this jack put back on here. All right, so I got all the sealant on here. Put an extra row of it there because I wanted to really cover the corner joint. And here's the brackets. I'm getting that on there. There we go. So now this thing's pretty heavy. I'm gonna see if I can just lift it up and slip a bolt through that hole and just kind of hold it in place. All right, that should be the hardest part. I'll just tighten those bolts up and then I'm done. So that is the final step to this whole giant project. All that work just to reinforce the tie-down point. But those things really are critically important. That's all that's holding the camper from sliding out of the back of my truck. So aside from the final test on the water heater, this project is complete out here. Well, that was a lot bigger job than I expected it to be. All that dry rot in there kind of caught me by surprise, although I suppose I should have been expecting it. I am really glad to have it done though, and right now I'm somewhere in the Nevada desert testing out my work. I'm sure it's a lot stronger than it was when it was new. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and remember, get out there and do something. Go camping.